Hello, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Julie.
Now we're going to do a comparison review of Funko Games' Prospero Hall's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre Slaughterhouse to Trick or Treat Studios' The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Both games we received as review copies, which we appreciate. That doesn't happen too often. This version is a one versus many, and this one is a cooperative. This is for 2 to 5 players, ages 13 and up, 45 to 60 minutes to play, and this one is 1 to 4 players, 60 minutes, and it's for ages 14 and up. So we're going to go right away into the descriptions of the game, and then we'll give our ratings at the end. So let's take a look here. Here is the Slaughterhouse Funko Games version, and this is the Trick or Treat Studios version. So these pieces here go with the Trick or Treat Studios. Let's take a look at what we're comparing here. First is theme. Both are horror games, and if you watch our how to play and playthroughs, you see Julie is visually stressed. She has a hard time playing this because it does make you feel like you are in the movie, and that's not good for Julie, but if you're a horror fan, you're going to love that. The object is essentially the same for both games. You need here to find the correct vehicle. All 3 vehicles will be available. And there'll be 2 other cards that you may find that would give you good or bad things. And you need to find a matching car part and keys and a gas can. And you'll be searching rooms here to find the gas and the 2 parts you need to get the car to go away. Here in the Trick or Treat Studio version, you're doing the same thing. You need to find the keys and the gas can. And you may need to get more gas if there's more players. If it's 2 players, 1 gas can, 3 players, 2 gas cans, 4 players, 3 gas cans. And there's 3 gas cans in the bag here. Thematically, in terms of being a horror game, the Trick or Treat Studio version with the bag is more kinesthetic. When you reach into the hideous bag, it's made to feel like a flesh bag. And then they have nylon in here, so when you're reaching in, it feels really creepy. So you'll, like I said, when you see on camera, Julie, when she does this, even when I rub up against her, see, that's an authentic reaction there.
Stop. I mean, I'm shaking, you guys. My stomach is in knots. I'm not happy.
So keep that in mind that this will creep out people. And so this is very kinesthetically creepy. Here you'll see, though, on the, and the artwork here, you have standees. It does look creepy here.
Yeah.
Right? But compared to the Funko game ones, this is more disturbing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they both capture how disturbing it can be. Now, let me put the bag over here.
Okay.
Okay. And you'll put tokens in here. We'll explain the mechanics here in a minute. I just want to explain how you win as part of the theme. When you start, as the players here, the trespassers, see how the artwork is here. A young person could be freaked out by that, and older people too. Just keep that in mind. They look like they are in stress, that's for sure. And as you get what are called desperation cards, the trespassers get, you can see, for instance here, that the artwork definitely creeps you out. Because it's, it's stuff from the movie. And if you see here, the card right here, that's from the beginning of the movie where the graves were being robbed. Now let's take a look at the categories. Okay, so that's the theme. You got in both games you got to survive. In the Trick or Treat Studio version, it's cooperative. All players are working together to survive. However, if someone gets the gas keys in the can, they have to get back to the van. If Julie and I are playing and I get back before her and I don't wait for her, in other words, I don't wait for her to get there first, I leave her behind, and then she would draw a "You Are Dead" card. So there is some thematic disturbing text here, but here you have more thematic disturbing pictures. Here, it's the same thing too. Whoever gets the parts and gets to the car first will leave anybody else behind unless they wait for them. So we'll go over some more of the mechanics here. Design-wise, The Funko game is slightly more tactical. You see that you have a downstairs region, an outdoor region. Everything outside the main house is outdoor, and then an upstairs region. So you got to go up the stairs to here, and you got to worry about making noise in this game. So when you search, you make noise, which is designated by the ear here. When you go upstairs, it makes noise. You make noise, and when you run, because usually you only can move one space. You have so many actions. You have 4 actions. Running causes noise, searching causes noise, and so does going upstairs. Now, why is noise bad? Because when you get noise, the Sawyer player can spend noise tokens to play cards. This is how much noise it costs to play some of these cards. To draw additional cards. And you don't. And what happens is, the Sawyer player only starts out in this game with the old man. The old man here is going to be in the pantry. So that's what the miniature looks like. In the Trick or Treat Studio version, right away Leatherface starts out. So each game only has one character. I'll explain a little bit different. What's the difference between starting out with the old man versus Leatherface? There's a big difference. In the Funko games, the Sawyer player wants to get the meter up here. It's called the stress meter, the panic meter, sorry. And as the panic meter goes up, Grandpa will come out, and I can put Grandpa anywhere I want. And anytime a trespasser moves into the location with Grandpa, they'll take damage. And they must stop. So if they were running, they would have to stop. So you'll see in the playthrough, I put Grandpa in the foyer right here, so that when she's going up down the stairs, she has to stop. Eventually, the hitchhiker will come out, and he'll move fast outdoors. And then when it gets all the way to the end here, Leatherface will appear here in the red hallway. When you watch the playthrough, he'll appear in the corner. Julie has all 3 of them in the same space. One trespasser dies, and Julie barely survives. So this game has player elimination. This game does not. So you have to play with 2 characters, as they call in this game, trespassers in this game. One can die, and then the other player can continue. If it's me versus Julie would play 2 characters, and so this guy died, and she was able to keep on playing with this one. But let's say it was me, our son David, and Julie. David would have to sit there and watch Julie try to survive. So this has player elimination. This does not. The Trick or Treat Studios games, you keep on playing until 3 characters. Actually, these are trespassers. They call them characters here. Are put on meat hooks right here. So once 3 characters get on meat hooks, the game ends. So say I was playing this guy, Franklin. I die. I go on the meat hook, and then I get another character here waiting at the van. You see, here's the truck driver. This has the truck driver from the movie. I don't remember a sheriff being in the original, but I think there is in the update. So that's a little bit different right there in the design mechanics. There's no player elimination here in the Trick or Treat Studios, and this one there is. And this one, you start out with the old man, and what's interesting about the old man, he cannot do a killing blow. Here in this game, Leatherface starts out right away, running around, and he's going to try to kill you. And you keep track here of blood splatters. In this game, you can get up to 3 blood splatters, and then once Leatherface or any other character does an additional one, you go to the meat hook, and you die. In this game, you only die when you get 4 injuries. And the old man won't do the 4th injury. So he's going to be running around hurting you, but you got to wait till the hitchhiker or Leatherface comes in, or Grandpa comes in to do the killing blow. And so there's 4 different types of injury. There's heart, foot, brain injury, and arm injury. So there's more detail on what happens to your character as you get hurt. So in the Funko game one, when you end your turn in a hiding space, roll 1 die. You miss. If you miss, you aren't hidden, which means that if you roll these bone dice and get the 2 or the 1 success, you're not hidden. Or if I gave Julie this brain injury, when you search, ignore all double successes. So a lot of the game here is more tactical. Figuring out how you're going to move, search. You can hide in certain places to avoid the Sawyers from attacking you. They can spend actions to find you, but they got to get a success. So for the trespassers, you got to try to find the objects in the gas as quick as possible before too many characters come out and eliminate you. There are horror tokens that will be on here that when you go into a room, I get to place, as a Sawyer player, I get to place 4 of these. So this one, for instance, says putrid. Go back 1 space. You cannot enter this room this turn. Remove this tile. So there's little surprises here. There's a way to prevent the trespassers from just searching over and over again. As they search a room, they can't search it again until all 5 tokens have been placed on the board. And then when they search a 6th location, I'll remove 1. So say if Julie's upstairs and she went to here, I put it there. So now that one's available again. Each character can do different damage and different abilities. Also, the trespassers start out with 1 personal item. You'll get 6 of these at the beginning of the game and keep 1. So Julie will draw 6, give 1 to the yellow player and 1 to the blue player. In the search deck here for the outer and downstairs, the deck will be split in half, and then the other half of the deck will be for the upstairs. And so all these will be combined with the items that you need for, hang on, these are for scenarios. I'll explain that in a minute. Where are the other cards? Right here? Here we are. Mm-hmm. Here are the ones you start with, and here are the scenario cards. It says A. So this game does have different scenarios. The Funko game, there's an A. This is the original scenario here, just like the movie. Then you have Burn It Down, Ransack, I Dare You, Things Happen Here, where you have different cards you'll put into the search deck, where you're trying to take pictures, or you're trying to loot it. And you have additional tokens where you're trying to start fires. We haven't played those scenarios yet, so this has that. Now, the Trick or Treat Studios, you also are searching, but you have tokens that you put face down. And as you move into locations, you find them. That's when you're trying to find the gas and the keys. And then when you go into named locations that have these red outlines and white text, you can do a search action to find cards, and sometimes they're good or bad. For instance, you can get a punctured gas can, and then you have to find it again. So Leatherface starts out right away on the board, and between turns, all these tiles were these tokens will be pretty much out on the board. And as you move over them, you reveal them, you put them into the barbecue tray, and then you must draw at least 1 token, otherwise Leatherface is going to move. So if you draw a token, you reveal it. Okay, Leatherface moves, and depending on how powerful he is, he can move 1, and if he lands on you, he'll do 1 blood splat. But eventually he can move, does that say
3 move, then 2 move, then 3 move.
So he can get really fast here, 3 moves and do 1 damage. Then he slows down and does 2 moves, but he does 2 damage. So there's a picture of luck here in the bag. So Leatherface moves. This gives me an action I can use after I'm done drawing. This is the Slaughterhouse family. You go on here, and when you get too many of these, the first 2 you get, Grandpa appears. He'll appear in the dining room. And then the cook will appear, and he'll go around from location to location. When he lands on you, he'll take you to the dining room where Grandpa would do 2 damage to you. And then the hitchhiker will appear at the van, and you can't leave when he's there. And if you move into a location with the hitchhiker, he'll do 1 damage to you. You can push him away, and the neat thing is the truck, if it hits any of the Sawyer family, they're out of the game. Leatherface won't go into the van area. So as you draw these tokens, that's how you get more Sawyer family members. So in this game, you're going to draw out of the bag to get additional actions to do things. At first, you start out being able to move 2 free spaces, but if you have 3 blood splatters, you lose that free movement. And once you get a 4th blood splatter, you go to the meat hook. You could try to survive and draw 3 action tokens, but you probably won't get it because if you draw a Leatherface, which will probably be too much in the bag, you will die. So when we play, we just basically, okay, that character's dead, and we get a new one. Once 3 Leatherface tokens are drawn, 1 goes here, and that's how Leatherface gets stronger. So as you go around, you're going to be adding tokens that you find to the bag. Hopefully you're going to have things that you need. I'll show you some of the actions that you can find in the bag. So that allows you to move or search the action tokens. If you draw an eye, you can flip over a token to see what it is, but you leave the token there. Here, when you draw a picture, you can look at the search deck, but then the truck moves. If you draw 3 bones, don't do anything. Basically, your draw phase will end when you draw three of a kind. And then the Slaughter family, that's how you get out the other Sawyer family members. And then here, that's where Leatherface will move, and you need the gas and the keys. Now you can go through windows and doors, but if you want to move through them quickly, you can crash through them, and you'll take 1 blood splat if you are trying to move quickly through them. You have special abilities in this game with your characters. So Sally, if you've seen the movie, spoiler alert, she survives. When Sally does a push action on a player, they move 2 spaces. So you'll see that, I don't know if we did it in the playthrough, but in one game, in order for us to both get out, I pushed Julie's character to the van, so that way when it was my turn, because I had the pieces needed to win.
I think that was one of our practice ones.
So each character has different abilities. Here, each character does not have different abilities in the Funko games, but you have different items. So in terms of major differences, this is a little bit more tactical. This, especially going into the house, here this is a more broader, including the areas outside the house. It is still tactical, but you're pushing your luck more with the bag here, whereas here you're just trying to manage the search deck and trying to find the things. All right, so that was comparing both games. Take a look at both how to play and playthroughs if you want to see more detail. And by the way, the Sawyer family is going to be, in the Funko game, is going to be using these cards here. You can use the bottom to get free actions, but if you want to spend fear tokens, I can do those actions. And there's cards in here that help get up that panic meter so that I can get out Grandpa, the hitchhiker, and eventually Leatherface as quick as possible. So in terms of thematically, it actually takes a while for Leatherface to come out on this version. Here, he's out right away, running around. So let's see the next. Okay, so fun gameplay. Well, Julie, what do you have to say about that? It's stressful for you, right?
I am just like even stressed just him describing all this to you. My stomach is in knots. My hands are shaking. I'm sweaty. This is not fun for me. No.
Right. For me, this is a lot of fun, so I appreciate Julie being a good sport. So if you're a fan of horror games, this is fun. They both are, you can tell that they are fans of the movie. They just took different approaches. Funko Games was not afraid to make this game creepy. Unlike the Warriors game, based on the movie, they removed the character for political correctness reasons, which was a bad move, we said in our review. In this game, they didn't hold back. Neither did this. Like I said, the creepy bag, the kinesthetic, this is more creepy art. Both are going to freak out people that are not into horror movies, as you can see Julie's reaction. Okay, the art, they both have, this has more creepy art. You have to decide which one you like better. You can see both games here. To me, I think they're fine. I don't. Do you like one over the other?
No.
No, you don't. You think they did a good job on each one?
Yes.
Yes, I agree. I would say though this one is definitely creepier in terms of the artwork. Getting to components, the component quality. Both outstanding board. The board is better on the Trick or Treat Studios, but the tokens are the same thickness, same card stock here. These have standees, but they're thick standees. The Funko game has miniatures. And they're decent quality. Whereas the Trick or Treat, you would have to buy the miniature separately. They do have a miniature pack that you could buy separately. The bag is outstanding here. Okay, they really did a good job on that because, like I said, that's what adds to the creepiness. Julie doesn't want to be touched by that. I don't blame her. So they're good quality, especially when you find out the price point for Funko games versus Trick or Treat Studios. This is twice, the Trick or Treat Studio costs twice as much as the Funko games. I'll get to that at the end. Complexity. This one requires more effort. If you're a hobbyist, you'll have no problem with this one, but if you're new to games, if you're the Sawyer player, the most experienced player needs to be the Sawyer player. Because you have to make sure players are doing things correctly, keep track of when they're making noise. They get to get rid of noise. You got to remind them to do that, and then you got to spin your noise like currency. And then if you're controlling 3 characters and looking at cards, this is more difficult for a non-hobby family. So if you're a hobbyist into games, you're going to have no trouble with this game, but the most experienced players should be the Sawyer family. Trick or Treat Studios is more accessible. People new to gaming or who grew up on Scrabble, Monopoly could handle this. All you're doing is moving, picking up tokens, drawing tokens, and using actions. This is the easiest one to play. This is more, like I said, accessible. Playing time, they're about the same. Although I would say that in a 2-player game, the Trick or Treat Studio is quicker. Just takes less time, but not by much. Maybe 10-15 minutes. In a 2-player game here, this is 30 minutes. This might be 25-20 minutes, especially when you're playing your 3rd or 4th time. This takes a little bit more time because there's more anxious decisions to make. When you're playing this game, you got to decide, okay, am I going to go on the outside? Where am I going to go? Am I going to hide? Am I going to use an item? And when I have injuries, you're going to have to reference those injuries for how it messes you up as you're playing. Where on the Trick or Treat, it's pretty simple. You might have a search card that might give you some ability, or you might have an objective because you can make it harder with objectives. So for instance, if you want to make the game harder, the Trick or Treat Studio game, you have to complete this objective before you can win. So there's a little bit of checking of that, but compared to this one, it's more complex than this one. And that adds to the playing time. Age audience, so here's the deal. It says 13 or 14 and up. This is the creepier one. If you're with somebody that can't handle horror movies, this one is definitely this one Julie can handle more than this one. This one creeps her out more, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but the bag
affects her too. But in terms of the artwork and the fact that you're getting injuries, this is more personal for your character here. I mean, you feel it more in this one. It's more intense because of the injuries. This is more intense because of the bag.
Yep.
So definitely 13, 14 and up for sure.
Yeah.
But some young people might not be able to handle it at all. And there's some adults that can't. Like Julie is visibly stressed right now. Learning the rules. Okay, so both games have buried rules. This is easier to get on the table, the Trick or Treat Studio one. The designer, I pointed out some rules that weren't explained. Like, for instance, does the cook go into the brambles? I said, probably not, but it didn't say that in the rules. How you use doors. The door is a space. You can stop on the door and go through it without breaking it, but if you want to break through it, that's when you can take a splatter token. Now it's broken, and every time you go through it, you take a damage. But it wasn't explained as well in the rules. So there's buried rules in this one, but it's easier to get to the table. Funko definitely has even more buried rules. So an experienced player has to read the rules to this, pay very close attention, because there's little things you can get wrong if you're not. So you can see how many little things here I'm pointing out. It lacks emphasis techniques to help you find things. Now both games do have reference cards here, and that's good. Character reference and the token reference. It's just realize that whoever reads rules in your gaming group is going to have to read it and pay very close attention. For instance, it's missing something here that's on the reference card. And this game has some things here that needs, because it lacks examples and playthroughs, that it's going to require an FAQ to clarify things in the Trick or Treat Studios one. If you watch a How to Play and Playthrough and what Scott Rogers, the designer, says, that's all you need to know. Here, like I said, you may not play it right unless you're a very careful reader and you reference it for your first game or two. So you could definitely learn the game from the rules. Just realize that if you're not paying close attention, you might make some errors. Okay, the last thing is the MSRP. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre is $60, and that's Trick or Treat Studios, and the Funko version is $30. The reason, and you have to ask yourself, what's in your budget? Do you prefer a cooperative game versus a one versus many? If you want miniatures for this one, it's going to cost you 20 to 30 more. But you don't need the miniatures to play it. You can play with the standees. There's an economy of scale here. Funko Games, I'm sure they print multiple times more copies. That's why they can get it down to $30 versus Trick or Treat Studios. They don't probably printing as many copies as Funko Games. So the last thing is, what is our rating? So Julie, what would you rate the Funko Games one? Remember, this is coming from somebody who doesn't like horror movies.
I guess I could play it again.
So what would you say?
4.
4. Not so good, but good play again. I was talking because of the theme.
Yeah.
You have no problems with the way the game is designed, correct?
No.
So the game is designed well.
Yes.
It's just because it's a horror game,
Yes.
It's a 4 for you. What about for Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
I'd say 5, only because it's cooperative.
Okay, so you'd rather play the Trick or Treat one because it's cooperative.
Yeah.
And it probably doesn't, it's the bag that creeps you out, which is
Yes.
interesting. But the art is what creeps you out more here, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, for me, because I am a horror fan, I'm giving both games an 8. This one I like because it's cooperative. And I can get to the table quicker. This one requires a little bit more setup. But because it's more tactical, if I really want to feel like the bad guy here and go after players, I'll play this one. So they're both an 8 for me. It would be interesting to combine both games. What doesn't make this a 9 or a 10 is because it has player elimination. The problem with Funko Games one is that if you're playing with 4 players, and or let's say you're playing with 5 players, and there's 4 trespassers, you're going to have 1 or 2 characters dying before the game ends, and they're just going to be sitting around the table. So that's what prevents this from getting a higher rating. This one, you would have to add the objective cards in for Trick or Treat Studio to make it more difficult, because it's going to be too easy without the objective card. It's an 8 right now because it's a cooperative game, and I know Julie will want to play this one more than this one. It would be interesting to combine them in some way. I like the fact that I like how it starts with the old man and it gradually introduces the other characters, and that you have items and injuries. I like that. Here I like that it's cooperative and it has the push your luck element. So if there was a way to combine the 2 games, that would be great. Then it would be a 9 or a 10. Either way, if you're a fan of the movies, I would say get both of them. If you're on a budget, you're going to have to decide, is my group like cooperative games more, or does my group like more one versus many? And then you're going to go with that. If money is an issue, then you go with the cheaper game if you're okay with player elimination. So it's a lot of interesting decisions here. We're happy to have both. We appreciate getting review copies.
We do.
I'm looking forward to playing the cooperative one with Julie again, even though she's not looking forward to putting her hand in the bag. I can do it for you if you want.
You will.
And but with my boys, my sons,
Our sons will love this.
they're going to want to play this one.
Yes.
They won't mind this one, okay? But because they're more miniature players, I think they're going to enjoy this one more until one person dies and he's going to be sitting there playing his thumb. So I don't know how they're going to react to that.
Well, and I think our future daughter-in-law will like that one too.
Right.
They're into all that scary stuff.
I just worry what's going to happen with the player elimination. That's what,
I don't know.
if they could have done something about that, then it would have the edge on the Trick or Treat Studio one. Trick or Treat, like I said, Trick or Treat Studio has the edge on it being cooperative, no player elimination.
Yeah.
And it's easier to get to the table. But for those who want a more tactical, more immersive feel, go for this.
Right.
But it has the issue of the player elimination. Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching. I'm sorry to be so stressed, but this is like really anxiety right now.
Yeah. Watch how to play and play through, and you'll see how Julie is reacting to it. We did it from each game. So thanks for watching.
Thanks so much for watching, you guys. We hope you like this. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.